is that play, enjoyment, sports are permissible. There are two issues here, by the way. One is to actually play the sport. You are actually on the basketball court shooting hoops. And the other is to watch the NBA, to watch as a, what do we call it? As a spectator for the purpose of entertainment. These are two separate issues. When it comes to playing the sport, not only is it permissible, but it is encouraged. It is recommended. There are some sports that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned. We all know of those: swimming, sabaha, and horse riding, and archery. These three are mentioned in hadith. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has encouraged. They're called the sunnah sports. But sports in general are encouraged, recommended. Why? Because if a person is healthy, then he will be able to perform his responsibilities to Allah Azza wa Jal and to his family, to 𝘾𝙊𝙉𝙊𝙒. If a person is healthy, he will be able to do sujood properly. He will be able to go for Hajj and Umrah. He will be able to fast as compared to a person who is unhealthy. If a person, when he plays sports, he relaxes, he's also mentally more relaxed. And there's data and stats to prove that students who engage in sports, especially team sports, they do better in school, academically, and they stay away from drugs. So there are many benefits to actually playing the sport. They have high self-esteem. They stay focused. It's a character builder, especially team sports. It builds character, how to cooperate as a team, how to achieve a goal, a purpose, an objective in cooperation with others. So there's many benefits to actually playing the sport. There are some sports which are not permissible. Yes, boxing is not permissible in Islam. Why? Because your punch is having a direct impact and causing permanent bodily harm to your opponent. Wrestling, on the other hand, does not do that. Wrestling is allowed. Sport fishing is not allowed. What is sport fishing? Catch and release. Catch and release. You catch the fish and then you let it go. People enjoy fishing. Fishing to eat, that's permissible, but catch and release. Why? Because when the hook is in the mouth of the fish, that fish does feel pain. There's no doubt about that. So for your enjoyment, fishing, you are causing this fish, makhluk of Allah Azza wa Jal, this pain. Sport fishing is not allowed. Trophy hunting is not allowed. One is to hunt for meat, but if you are hunting a rhinoceros, an elephant, a bear, a puma, a lion, so you can stuff it and then display it in your home that I have hunted this animal. Majority, 99% of those people who hunt, they do not do trophy hunting. It's illegal in most countries of the world. You hunt for meat, but trophy hunting is not allowed in Islam. So, having said that, sports in general is not only allowed, but encouraged. I wish there were more people, boys and girls, from our community who are more active in sports. The second issue is watching sport, being a spectator. This is a different question. Very different than playing the actual sport. Watching, either live or on TV, it is permissible. It is permissible. As long as you're not watching the halftime show or the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, generally speaking, watching the sport is permissible. Doesn't mean it's encouraged or it's recommended, as in actually playing the sport, but it is permissible. On the condition that it does not infringe upon 𝘾𝙊𝙉 and 𝘾𝙊𝙉𝙊𝙒, the rights of Allah and the rights of others. Where do we get this from? There are many ahadith in which Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has discouraged talking, chit-chat, conversations after Isha. عن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال جدب لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم السمر بعد العشاء. Samar means to engage in conversation after Isha. And another hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, كَانَ لَا يُحِبُّ النَّوْمِ قَبْلَ الْعِشَاءِ وَلَا الْحَدِيثِ بَعْدَهَا. He did not like people to sleep before Salatul Isha or to engage in conversation after Isha. Why? Well, think for a second. If Isha is at 10:45, like it is in Utah in the summer months, Isha time enters 10:45. And after you have prayed Isha, if you are going to engage in lengthy conversations, chit-chatting with your friends, that puts your Fajr prayer at risk. There's a pretty good chance you will not wake up for Fajr prayer. But obviously, if Isha is at 6:45 p.m., like it is now in the winter months, then you can, of course, engage in conversation because there's no risk to your Fajr prayer the next day. So the reason why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam discouraged conversation after Isha was so that people do not miss their Fajr prayer. So conversation is allowed as long as it does not infringe upon hukuk al-ibad. Similarly, watching any sport is allowed as long as it does not infringe upon hukukullah, the rights of Allah. Praying does not come in the way of your prayers or your responsibility towards your family. This much is about playing a sport and being a spectator and watching the sport. Now moving on to the FIFA World Cup being hosted by Qatar. First of all, I'm not supporting or in support of the Qatari government. As a matter of fact, I would oppose them or voice my opposition for various reasons. There is a U.S. military base in Qatar, and that U.S. military base in Qatar was used to drop bombs on Muslims in an unjust war. And their treatment of immigrants from other countries. So I'm not in favor of Qatar or any Muslim country for that matter. But the topic is not the Qatari government. The topic is they're hosting the World Cup and what lessons we can learn from that. And if there is good in any group of people, we should recognize it. More so if it is found in Muslims. We don't recognize the good in each other. Quran speaks of the good traits of the disbelievers. Surah Al-Imran, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ, and from amongst the people of the book, there are some, Quran says, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ. Amongst the people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, there are some people who are honest, so honest, that if you were to give them a heap of gold, a pile of gold, يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ, he would return it to you when you asked for it. If you entrusted him with a pile of gold, this Christian, this Jew would return it to you, Quran says. This is how honest he is. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِن تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ. And there are others from the people of the book who are so dishonest that if you were to entrust even a single dinar, لَا يُؤَدِّهِ إِلَيْكَ, he would not give it back to you. إِلَّا مَا دُمْتَ عَلَيْهِ قَائِمًا, unless you stood on his head nagging him, give it back, give it back, give it back, give it back. What is Quran doing? Allah is just. Quran is just. Quran is the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal. You will find not only this verse but other verses in the Quran where Allah Azza wa Jal is praising the people of the book, i.e. the Christians and the Jews, for the good traits that are found in them. So if there are some good traits in a group of people, we should acknowledge and learn from it. That is my point. What are some of the lessons we can learn from how Qatar hosted the World Cup? Well, first ayah that comes to mind is the verse in Surah Baqarah, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ. They ask you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, about alcohol and gambling. قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, tell them in these two. Which two? gambling and alcohol. ithmun kabir, there is evil, sin. وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ, and there is benefit in these two. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِن نَفْعِهِمَا, the evil in these two is far greater than the benefit. The harm in these two, gambling and alcohol, is far greater than the benefit. This was the first of 3 ayats that came prohibiting alcohol, khamr, during the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gradually. Verse 1, verse 2 in Surah Nisa, verse 3 in Surah Ma'idah. This is the first of the 3. We think of harm, one harm we think of is liver damage and the bodily harm that comes from drinking alcohol. Another harm that we see almost on a weekly basis, or we hear about it on a weekly basis, is the number of deaths due to drunk driving. Over 10,000 people die, I'm not talking about injuries, die, fatalities per year in the United States due to drunk driving. Qatar banned alcohol in the stadium and around, right? And people, a woman from Texas, blonde hair, blue-eyed, non-Muslim, she attends these games and says, I have never felt so safe at a sporting event in my life. Is this the first sporting event that this Texan has attended? She's attending a Muslim country, a sporting event, an international sporting event, and she is saying, I have never felt so safe ever at a sporting event as I have at this World Cup in Qatar. This is one of the benefits of staying away from alcohol, that people genuinely had a good time and they enjoyed themselves without alcohol. And this takes us to our next point, which is you can take the good and stay away from the evil. You don't have to take the evil with the good. Qatar said, we are going to host the World Cup and we are going to spend $220 billion and we're going to make sure that everyone that comes and attends the World Cup is going to have a good time and they are going to enjoy and have a good experience, but we are not going to serve alcohol. You take the good and stay away from the evil. This rule can apply to every one of us living in this country, because in this country there's good and bad. What happens is because we are taking the good, we sometimes also end up taking the bad. Allah has given us a filter. That filter is Quran and Sunnah. If you pay $13 for a buffet at Chakarama and you go to the buffet table and there's something that is halal and there's something that is haram, it's permissible. You take the good and leave the evil. You go to high school for 4 years, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, they're your friends. But because you attended high school for 4 years, good for you. Alhamdulillah, you graduated from high school. Do you have to attend the prom? Do you have to attend the prom? No, you don't. Stay away from the prom. Stay away from prom night. You're going to the university for an education? Good for you, alhamdulillah. Do you have to attend the parties, the frat parties? Do you have to join the sororities? Do you have to stay on campus Friday night and party? No, you don't. Take the good, take the university education, stay away from the campus wild parties. You have invited someone for a walima, nice, at a nice place, Grand America, Little America, serve food. Do you have to have music and dance? If Qatar can host a world football tournament, and not serve alcohol and people still have a good time, then you have no excuse. You cannot tell me, oh, if I don't call in a DJ, if I don't play music, my guest will not have a good time. I can guarantee you they will have a blast of a time without the music, without the dance. Take the good. This is a principle that we can apply in every aspect of our life. Once my teacher gave this example, he said there's only 2 countries in the world that make commercial airlines. Europe makes the Airbus, and Boeing, United States, makes the Boeing in Washington. Because a Muslim country is buying an airplane from Boeing, does that mean that we also have to serve alcohol on that airplane? Take the good, and leave the evil. Take the good, leave the bad. Enjoy the good. And when this is the principle that Qatar applied. They said, we're going to have the tournament. We're going to take the good, but we're going to stay away from the evil. Another thing we can learn is diplomacy. Sometimes we bring unnecessary attention to ourselves. Qatar announced that there would be no alcohol 2 days before the opening match. 2 days before. People came and said, where's the beer? They said, we never said beer, we said takbir. 2 days before. If they had announced months before, there would have been a global outcry. There would have been unnecessary conflict and tension, unwarranted attention. They gave a simple announcement 2 days before the game, after people had bought their tickets and booked their hotels. So we have to learn how to be more diplomatic. And the spokesperson they chose and how he explained that we also have a culture. We want people from all over the world to come and experience the Qatari culture, which in essence was the community, the society. Because if for a few individuals, to make a few individuals happy, should the community, culture / he used the word culture, but I'm using the word society. Should the community give up its rights? Doesn't the community have rights? I will summarize in one sentence the difference between Western law and Islamic law. Western law is based on the principle of maximizing the happiness of the individual. And that's in the Declaration of Independence, in the pursuit of happiness. Maximizing the happiness of the individual, sometimes at a detriment to society at large. As long as this individual does not cause anyone bodily harm, let this individual do whatever he wants to do, as long as he's not causing others bodily harm. And it is the responsibility of the government, United States or England, to protect the rights of this individual so he can maximize his individual happiness. Islamic law is based on a different concept. Islamic law is that the community has rights, society has rights, the ummah has rights. The rights of the majority cannot be sacrificed at the expense of a minority. What he was saying, in fact, if we can understand this is the right time to understand, because it just happened or is happening. The community, the Qatari community also has some rights. The LGBTQ community has rights. No one is denying that. But should the community at large should their rights be sacrificed for the sake of the individual? So no, the community also has rights, and their rights will be protected. They have a right that they should not be harmed physically, spiritually, morally, mentally. These are the rights of the community. Anyhow, so much about that. Moving on to cheering. Can you cheer for a team? Well, actually, I'm going to prove this through the Quran. Yes, cheering. Surah Rum, Surah number 30. Alif Lam Mim Ghulibat Rum. Allah Azza wa Jal states in Surah 30, the beginning verses, that Rum has been defeated. Rum is another word for the Byzantine Empire, or the Roman Empire as we know it. It disintegrated 300 years before Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So which Rum is Quran referring to? There was no Roman Empire. there was the Byzantine Empire. But the Byzantine Empire referred to themselves as the Romans, and the world referred to them as Rumi. Anyhow, Quran says that the Byzantine Empire has been defeated. This happened during the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during the Meccan era. And then Quran says that fi adna al-ard wa hum min ba'di ghalabihim sayaghlibun. This happened in a nearby land. And after they have been defeated, they will become victorious. Who? The Byzantine. Who were they fighting, by the way? They were fighting the Persians, the Zoroastrians, the fire worshippers. And the Byzantine were Christians, Ahl Kitab. The Sahaba, they had an affinity with the Byzantine. Why? Because the Byzantine, after all, are Ahl Kitab. So who were the Sahaba cheering for? The Sahaba were cheering for the Byzantine because they were Ahl Kitab. And the Mushrikeen of Makkah, who were they cheering for? They were cheering for the Persian Empire because they felt an affinity with the Persian Empire because Mushrikeen are idolaters and the Persian Empire are also idolaters. So Quran says that fi adna al-ard, they have been defeated for now. Who? The Byzantine. But in a matter of few years, fi bid'i sinin, lillahi al-amru min qablu wa min ba'd, wa yawma idin yafrahu al-mu'minun. In a few years, in a matter of few years, the Byzantine will become victorious. And when they do become victorious, the Sahaba will cheer. Quran says, yawma idin yafrahu al-mu'minun. The believers will be happy. The believers will be happy. Why would the Sahaba be happy? Because the Ahl Kitab have won over the Mushrikeen. So you can cheer for someone. I just proved cheering through the Quran. You can cheer for a team based on any affinity that you have, whether it's nationality or ethnicity or religion, deen. But the trump card is deen. What makes us happy more than anything else is when a Muslim country wins. That is something to take note. Why did that happen? Imagine the Moroccan team captain is saying, this win is for Morocco and it's for all the Muslims of the world. Can you ever imagine a Christian team captain saying that this win is for France or Argentina and for all the Christians of the world? This is something that Islam has given us. A loyalty to who? A loyalty to our fellow Muslims. A loyalty to Islam. Where we feel that affinity with Muslims. Why were Muslims all over the world happy? They're not from Morocco. Muslims who are not from Morocco are feeling happy when Morocco has won. Why? Why? Explain that to me. This is the bond that Islam has given us. You will only find this in Islam. You will not find this in any other faith. And even though the enemies of Islam have divided us into 57 countries, yes, after World War I, the powers that won, the United States, Britain, France, Soviet Union, they sat down and they drew lines and they said, this is Iraq, this is Jordan. If you notice, there's no natural boundary like a river or a mountain range. What are the borders between most of the Muslim countries? Straight lines. Where did these straight lines come from? The winning powers, they sat down and they drew these lines and have divided us. But for the first time, you saw a glimpse of what is called pan-Islamism, where we are all one. And yes, we have our nationalities. I'm not disagreeing with the reality. But our biggest loyalty is to the fact that we are all Muslims. And that is the hadith that you find where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that the Muslim ummah is like one wall. If one brick is loose, the whole is going to affect the whole wall. If a group of Muslims are sad, are being persecuted in one part of the world, all the Muslims of the world should feel sad. And if there is some joy, happiness coming to a group of Muslims in one part of the world, all the Muslims of the world should feel happy, as all the Muslims of the world felt happy over the fact that Morocco had won. This is the beauty of Islam. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us tawfiq. Wa ma alayna illa al-balagh.